Thank you for that. Let's discuss the president's speech last night with CNN political commentators. We have Anna Navarro and Ben Ferguson. And Anna tweeted last night, we'll read that, only possible defensible explanation for Trump's disgusting, unpresidential, narcissistic behavior would be early onset dementia. Okay, welcome to both of you.
Morning. Good morning to you.
And good morning to both of you. Anna, listen, are you going overboard? I mean, when you move into the mentally unfit, the dementia, that's just a whole new realm of which, frankly, you have no proof and no evidence. And so why jump that shark?
It's not normal. And you see, people who are normalizing it at this point are becoming complicit. What we saw yesterday was a president of the United States fanning the flames. Look, for a while there, as Chris said, he was reading off the teleprompter and you thought, okay, this might be a normal rally. He might, have some presidential moments. Then he takes these papers out of his pocket. He obviously had intent of going rogue, doing what his advisors told him not to do. Allison, he is the commander-in-chief. He is the leader of the United States. He is supposed to be uniting us. We have just had the most horrible week, the most horrible 10 days of division, racial tensions, grief in this country. And instead of this man going out there and figuring out how to heal the country, it was all about him. He didn't talk about hatred. He didn't talk about bigotry. He didn't talk about Heather Heyer. He talked about how he was the victim, how he was being attacked. That is called narcissism. That is not normal. That is not sane behavior. I am not a psychiatrist. I am just a regular human being who knows a lot of people and who knows the difference between right and wrong, which is more than this 71-year-old man baby seems to be able to know.
Ben, how did you hear it?
One, Anna, you're better than this. To come out there and, you criticize the president constantly, and that's fine. But to say that the man has a medical condition or imply that somehow it's dementia, you've had some pretty intense moments on TV. You had some intense moments where you're yelling the P word on TV. No one tweeted out and said that you have early onset dementia. To describe someone that way, I think, is incredibly unfair. I also think that honestly, you're a lot better than that. I know you don't like president,
I understand. But Ben, before we get into a debate about these two, I mean, I'm just curious. What did you think that his speech last night was okay? Did you think it was unifying?
I thought it was a classic campaign rally speech that we've been seeing now for, what, a year, over a year?
But he's the president. He's not a campaigner anymore.
Well, you do campaign when you're the president.
Right, but
everybody does when they're the president.
Just one more thing. Of course, look, a campaign, by definition, a campaign is divisive. By definition.
Sure.
As president, you're supposed to be uniting the country. Did you feel the speech was unifying?
I don't think every speech the president gives has to be a, quote, unifying speech, because you're fighting for something in politics. I can give you thousands of examples where Barack Obama was not unifying the country and was trying to pass Obamacare. Did anyone say that he was unhinged or had early onset dementia? No. Anytime you're fighting for something political. Hold on, but let me finish this one thing, though. This is the part that I think people that criticize the president, they constantly say, well, he's unpresidential or he's unhinged or he is outside the realm. The same people that are saying that are the ones that are tweeting things like, I think the president has dementia, or I think it's time to unseat the president, or I think it's time to impeach him. If you don't like the president, it doesn't mean that you have to go to personal attacks or to somehow say that his mind is not sane. That's a very, very, very bitter thing to say.
Go ahead, Anna.
Okay, now let me say this. I did not say he had dementia.
You implied
I said No.
You did.
Go read my tweet. It's right there. I'm not making it up. What I said was that it was the only defensible excuse. Ben, hold on. This is not about you and me. I'm not going to go after you because you're an apologist for every ridiculous thing this man says.
You just did.
This is about the president of the United States. Let me finish, Ben. I let you speak. What I said was that the only defensible excuse, the only defensible explanation is if he is not mentally well. Because if he is, then he is just such an incredible, self-centered, narcissistic, unfit jerk that it makes it that much worse.
What I'm talking about.
Only thing that would make it defensible is if he really is not well. If sometime later in the future we find out he had something. I'm not saying he has it.
Of course you are. That's exactly what you're implying.
I'm saying it is the only defensible excuse for his disgusting, self-centered, narcissistic behavior.
I get you hate the president. You voted for Hillary Clinton. I'm fine with that.
And I get that you apologize for every ridiculous, irrational thing that he utters.
I don't apologize for everything he says, and I've criticized him multiple times.
I agree with both of you that this isn't actually about both of you. Ben, I'm really curious. Did you think last night's speech was helpful for the country?
I think last night's speech, there's two things that I took away from it. People that criticized the president last week on his response, and I was one of those that criticized him on his response to Charlottesville. Last night, he admitted to both sides, and then people criticized him, saying, well, he's rewriting history.
Wait, he omitted it. Got it. He omitted it last night. So why did he do that?
And so my point is this. Last night, I think the president understood and pivoted to become a better president on that issue and not keep doubling or tripling down on something that he shouldn't have said.
So now, but hold on. Listeners,
no,
hold on,
everybody
Ben.
there.
He wasn't admitting it. He was omitting it. They're two completely diametrically opposed
This is where
things.
I disagree. We all last week, everybody's saying, I hope we see a new president. I hope that we see him come out differently. I hope that we see that he changes his tone. I hope he won't continue to use things,
and taking
moral
out a piece
equivalency
of
on both
paper
sides.
from his pocket and saying something different than what he actually had said, omitting the pivotal part.
This is where I think you look at it completely different than I do. I think the president last night was more responsible than he was a week ago. We should be glad that he was more responsible and to not go back to the both sides rhetoric. It's what everyone said they want him to do, right? They all said, you can't walk out there and you can't have a moral equivalency between the both sides. Last night he admits it because he doesn't want to keep putting it out there.
But he didn't admit wrongdoing. He didn't. He omitted it as though it didn't happen. This is what I said.
At a campaign rally last night, I don't think anyone there last night thought he was, quote, rewriting history. I think what they thought last night is he was actually having a rally with his supporters, with his base, and he didn't say some things that were hurtful that he said a week ago. Because if he would have come out and said the whole thing, people would have said, he's tripling down, he's quadrupling down on this.
One more thing before I let Anna get back in. Do you think that, you said he wanted to not hurt anybody. Do you think that he's hurting reporters and the press with his language?
I think if you're going to go after the press, you have to be very, very clear who you're going after. Specifically.
Do you think the press as a whole, do you think he's ginning up animosity and hatred towards the press?
I don't. That's a tough one because I do think, let me give you an example. Last night, if you just look at the reaction, there are so many people in the press that are trying to imply that he's unhinged or he's not mentally fit or he's totally out of control.
We were taking it wall to wall.
Right. No, but this is what I'm saying.
Anything.
When I watched last night's speech and then came over to talk about it, I didn't think last night was anything outside the ordinary, except it was an ordinary speech from the president to his supporters and rally.
Fair enough.
And people say he's unhinged and crazy.
And we let you have your say.
Into it.
We let you have
Absolutely.
your say. But should the president be using this inflammatory language about the press, freedom of press?
I think when the press starts implying that somehow you shouldn't be president or somehow you're in this disaster zone or that you're acting as a 6-year-old, as I've heard people in the press literally say, you have a right to defend yourself.
Do you think he's inciting hostility towards the press?
I don't think it's hostility. I think he's playing fair game. I think it's a fair fight. The press can take care of themselves. I think the president can take care of themselves. I do think we need to have a bigger discussion about it, and both sides probably need to tone it down.
Go ahead, Anna.
Look, I think what we saw yesterday is the real Donald Trump. We have seen in the last few days a Donald Trump that sometimes sticks to script, that sometimes reads off the teleprompter, and that I think gives a lot of us, soothes our nerves, if you want. But when he is the real Donald Trump, when he is speaking from his heart or lack thereof, when he is speaking off the cuff and his genuine thoughts, it is a scary reality. It is a scary reality. He was not trying to do anything for the country. This was nothing but an entire diatribe, a self-defense of himself. He couldn't get over. The bottom line is he can't get over the backlash and criticism he caused. He wants to be told that he was great, that his words were great. And since nobody is going out there and saying it, nobody with real credibility, he's out there to make the case for himself. This was not the art of the deal. This was the art of narcissism, the art of being self-centered, the art of being all about him. Yeah. He turned this tragedy of Charlottesville, where a woman died, where people have been hurt, where the entire country has been in a state of distress by seeing how broken we are, and he turned it all about him. It was all about him. We cannot normalize that. We cannot get numb to the idea that this is the president of the United States and that this is normal, acceptable behavior. It is not. It was a grotesque display of narcissism, self-defense, and being self-centered.
It's a rally. This is the overreaction and why Donald Trump...
It's a rally by the president of the United States, Ben.
Here's what I say. What you just described last night is the classic reason why I think Donald Trump fights back so hard. You go personal as you possibly can.
So does
demean the president as much as you possibly can.
He goes quite personal.
Right, and he fights back, but then you say he can't do it, but the other side can attack him, say he's unfit, say he might have dementia.
He's the president.
Well, if someone says I might have dementia, I'm fighting back.
Ben, don't we hold our president to a higher standard than the rest of us?
Of course we do, but I don't think there's anything wrong with him being honest and blunt about what he thinks at a campaign rally with people that obviously love and support him and stood in line for hours. And every president that I know that's done exactly that when they're talking to the people that support them at a rally.
Jimmy Carter, you've heard George W. Bush have a campaign rally like that one last night?
No, Donald Trump's rallies are completely different.
That's right.
There's no,
So every president doesn't do
No,
what
I'm
he
saying
does.
his style is completely different. But when you go and talk to your base, you rally them up. That's what a rally is. Keyword rally. You rally them up, you get them excited, and the crowd loved it last night. They loved it.
Well, on that note, that is a fact. The crowd did love it. Anna,